Who does China want more as the next US president, Donald Trump or Kamala Harris? Well, Professor Kishore Mahbubani has an insightful take on that. You don't want to miss this? Check it out.
What difference does it make whether Kamala wins or Donald Trump wins? And here there's a paradox. On the one hand, I can confidently say nothing will change because this contest, as I explained earlier, is driven by structural forces, not by personalities. Whether it's Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, or anybody else, the US-China contest will continue. It's driven by structural forces. But on the other hand, everything may change because the style, and sometimes to some extent the substance, of Trump's and Kamala's responses to this US-China contest clearly will be different in many significant ways. And I'm sure that if you are a leader of China trying to decide who's better for China, is it Donald Trump, is it Kamala, it's a very tough choice because both have their advantages and their disadvantages for China. And maybe that's one way of me spelling out the differences between the two from the point of view of China. How will China be impacted by Donald Trump or by Kamala Harris? So what are the advantages of Donald Trump for China? Well, the number one advantage is that unlike Joe Biden, and probably unlike Kamala Harris, who worked very hard to get the allies of the US to come along in this contest against China, and this is what the Biden administration is most proud of. They feel that this is no longer a contest between US, China. They've tried to get Japan, South Korea, Australia, the Europeans more involved in the contest against China. But as you know, Donald Trump doesn't believe that allies are assets. He believes that allies are liabilities. And so he's always asking, what have you done for me lately? And as you know, he tried to increase the spending by Japan and South Korea even in his first term. And when he comes back, he will probably insist that the allies pay more. That's going to alienate the allies. And I'm told that he may even ask Taiwan to pay more. So that's how he treats his friends and allies. So if he alienates allies, that's a plus for China. And the second thing about Donald Trump is that he's incredibly erratic. And because he's erratic, he will also alienate other countries. And in contrast between an erratic Donald Trump and a predictable China, countries will say, okay, I'd rather work with a predictable China than with an erratic Donald Trump. And so that's also a plus. And another possible plus that Donald Trump could provide is that he's a deal maker. He is prepared to sacrifice anything if it thinks it will be good for him and it will be good for the United States of America. So, and this is why Taiwan has got to be very careful. I mentioned earlier that you're a pawn. Taiwan will be easily sacrificed in a deal if something can be obtained in return for China. And geopolitics is a very cold and cruel business. Countries have been sacrificed, territories have been sacrificed consistently in geopolitics if you're not careful. And Donald Trump will have no hesitation. I mean, as you know, even in his first term, even though South Korea had been a very strong and close ally of the United States, he didn't even consult South Korea when he decided to go to North Korea. That's the kind of person he is. So that may be an asset. But of course, Donald Trump also poses dangers to China. Because, as you know, his Secretary of State in his first term was Mike Pompeo. And after Mike Pompeo stepped down, I understand he came to Taiwan to give a speech here. And in that speech, he recommended that United States should recognize Taiwan as an independent country. Now, Mike Pompeo is sophisticated enough to understand that that's a declaration of war. I'm surprised he recommended it. But if the United States was to recognize Taiwan as an independent country under Donald Trump, then Taiwan will be at war. So you can see, therefore, Donald Trump, why China may not be too enthusiastic about Donald Trump. Now, in the case of Kamala Harris, clearly she's much more predictable, and you can expect to have a continuation of the policies of the Biden administration towards China. The pressure will be there, but it won't be erratic. It'll be predictable, and China can manage that predictable level of pressure. Kamala will, of course, keep the allies on board. That will be a disadvantage clearly for China. And Kamala, of course, will keep up the pressure on Russia and Ukraine, and she said so in the debate today. So in that sense, she will be just effectively a continuation of Joe Biden, but of course with a lot more energy and drive than Joe Biden had. So you can see from the Chinese point of view, there's no clear preference within Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, and they will live with whoever is elected by the American people.
What do you think? Do you agree with Professor Kishore Mahbubani's take? Who do you think China would prefer, Donald Trump or Kamala Harris as the next US president? We'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to support the channel.